Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Jimmy Kimmel stood behind his desk, slightly tilting his head, while studio spotlights illuminated his smirking face. The audience in the studio erupted in applause, interspersed with joyful shouts and rare whistles. Tonight, we have a guest who doesn't need an introduction because he'll interrupt me in 5 seconds anyway. The former, and, oddly enough, once again, President of the United States, Donald Trump, Jimmy announced, spreading his arms in a theatrical gesture. The crowd immediately split. Half waved red MAGA caps, shouting something incoherent, while the other half rolled their eyes or demonstratively crossed their arms. The cameras captured this moment, and on screens across America, viewers could see the tension in the room sparking even before the conversation began. Trump walked onto the stage with a confident stride, wearing his signature dark blue suit with a red tie that seemed to stretch down to the floor. He waved his hand, flashed 2 thumbs up, and plopped into the chair across from Jimmy as if it were a throne rather than a studio seat. "Donald, great to see you again. What's it like to be back in the White House and making America great? Squared? Is this officially MAGA 2.0 now?" Jimmy began, sitting down and leaning slightly forward, as if preparing for a verbal duel. Trump immediately broke into a wide grin, clearly pleased with the question. "Jimmy, it's fantastic. Nobody has done more for this country than me. It's a fact. Everyone knows it. I came back and said, we're going to fix everything. And we're doing it big, believe me," he replied, slapping his palm on the armrest for emphasis. "Big? Are you talking about those 104% tariffs on Chinese goods? Great move, Donald. Now my new iPhone will cost as much as a used pickup truck in Idaho," Jimmy said, tossing a quick glance at the camera with feigned surprise. The room burst into laughter, and someone even clapped. Trump waved his hand as if swatting a fly. "Jimmy, you don't get it. China has been robbing us for decades. Decades. I'm leveling the playing field. People love it. Believe me. They call me, they write, 'Donald, you're a genius,'" he said, leaning back with the air of someone who just won a chess tournament. "Love it. Sure, that guy in Ohio who used to buy a toaster for $20 and now shells out 60 is probably thrilled. Maybe he'll even embroider you a thank you note on a Walmart napkin," Jimmy continued, crossing his arms and slightly shaking his head. The audience laughed again, and a few people in the front row held up homemade signs reading, "Thanks, Trump." Trump shook his head, as if Jimmy were a child who didn't grasp simple things. "It's about jobs, Jimmy. We're bringing manufacturing back to America. Steel, cars, everything. China's panicking, and that's because of me. Nobody else could have done it," he said, jabbing a finger into the air. Jimmy nodded, but his eyes narrowed like a cat ready to pounce on its prey. "Because of you? Donald, since your return, grocery bills for Americans have gone up 20%. And now with these tariffs, sneakers and TVs are becoming luxuries. You're like Santa Claus, except instead of gifts, you hand out new price tags with 3 zeros, he said, spreading his arms. The room buzzed. Some clapped, some whistled, and one guy in the back even shouted, "Truth!" Trump straightened up in his chair, his face slightly reddening. "Jimmy, you're funny, but it's temporary. People love me. I won the election twice, more than anyone in history." "That's a fact," he said, lifting his chin. "Twice. And what happened in between? A short vacation while America looked for a backup plan? And now you're back with tariffs to make every American a little poorer," Jimmy countered, leaning closer to Trump. The crowd laughed again, and Trump slammed his fist on the armrest, clearly starting to lose patience. "You don't know anything, Jimmy. I'm a businessman. I understand economics better than anyone. Better than anyone. Tariffs are a win. A big win," he said, his voice growing louder and his gestures sharper. "A win? For who? For the dad who can't buy his son a bike for Christmas now? Or the mom counting pennies for diapers? You say win, and I hear Walmart's just for millionaires now, Jimmy said, standing up from his chair and stepping toward the edge of the stage. The audience exploded. Some cheered wildly, others shouted something about fake news. Trump jumped up too, his tie swinging like a pendulum. Jimmy, enough! I'm saving this country, and you're clowning around here like a fool, he snapped, raising his voice to a shout. Clowning? You introduce tariffs that are costing farmers their markets, and you call it saving. Maybe you should start a course called How to Go Broke with a Smile, Jimmy replied, spreading his arms and turning to the crowd. The room grew even louder, and Trump stepped forward, pointing at the host. You're crossing the line. I made America strong, and you're sitting here criticizing like some loser, he yelled, his face turning almost crimson. Strong. Prices are rising. China's hitting back with their own tariffs, and you think you've won. That's not a win, Donald. It's a bill for your ego, Jimmy shot back, stepping toward Trump. The room turned into chaos. Shouts, whistles, and applause blended into a cacophony. I'm not listening to this. You're nobody to judge me, Trump roared, ripping the mic off his jacket, hurling it to the floor, and storming toward the exit, nearly tripping over a cable. Good luck with your tariffs, Donald. And don't forget to grab the receipt for the wrecked economy, Jimmy shouted after him as Trump's silhouette vanished backstage. The room erupted. Some leapt from their seats, waving their arms. Others raged, yelling something unintelligible. Jimmy turned to the camera, wiped imaginary sweat from his brow, and grinned. That's what happens when ego outweighs common sense. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to a break, he said, and the studio lights flickered, signaling the segment's end. Backstage, assistants were already whispering that this show would become legendary, while a storm was brewing on social media that no one yet suspected. The next day, the video of the clash spread across the internet faster than gossip in a small town. The X platform was flooded with hashtags Tariff Tantrum and Jimmy vs. Trump. Memes of Trump throwing the mic with captions like, "When your tariffs cost more than common sense," went viral in hours. Someone posted a GIF of Jimmy spreading his arms with the text, "Pay more, thank me later." The YouTube clip racked up 20 million views in a day, and the tariff tantrum soared to the top of the trends. Jimmy's fans celebrated his triumph, calling it the takedown of the century, while Trump's supporters flooded the web with angry posts about liberal circuses and media bias. America was divided, but one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. The next morning, after Jimmy Kimmel's explosive broadcast, America woke up in a state that could only be described as digital fever. The video of Trump throwing the mic and Jimmy's sharp jabs didn't just go viral. It became a cultural phenomenon. By 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the clip had hit 35 million views, outpacing even the latest superhero blockbuster trailers. On the X platform, the hashtag #TariffTantrum didn't just stay at the top. It spawned an entire ecosystem of memes, parodies, and heated arguments. One user posted a photoshopped image of Trump in a Santa Claus suit handing out price tags instead of gifts, captioned, "Ho ho higher prices." Another shared a video of an Iowa farmer burning a box of Chinese tractor parts, shouting, "Thanks, Donald. Now I'm bankrupt." At Jimmy Kimmel's show headquarters in Los Angeles, controlled chaos reigned. Producers raced through the halls clutching tablets with analytics, while writers brainstormed new jokes for the next episode. Jimmy himself sat in his office, sipping coffee from a mug labeled, "I Survived 2025, scrolling through morning headlines. Trump versus Kimmel. Tariffs spark a storm, read one on CNN's site. Fox News fired back with, "Liberal clown humiliates president. Where's the respect?" Jimmy smirked, set his phone down, and muttered, "Well, at least they're talking about me." Meanwhile, in Washington, Donald Trump gathered his team in the Oval. office to address the situation. His advisors, dressed in crisp suits, sat in a semicircle as the president paced in front of the resolute desk. This Kimmel guy's a clown, an absolute clown. He knows nothing about economics, and America's watching and laughing. It's outrageous, Trump said, flailing his arms. One advisor, a young guy with a thin tie, timidly raised his hand. "Sir, maybe we should issue a statement. The show's ratings have skyrocketed, and people are talking about tariffs more than we expected." Trump stopped and stared at him. "A statement? I'll give them more than a statement. I'll show them my tariffs work. Call a press conference. Today." By noon, the White House had turned into a beehive. Reporters filled the briefing room, cameras hummed, and journalists whispered that Trump was about to fight back. When he stepped up to the podium, his face was a mix of determination and irritation. "I watched that so-called show yesterday, and you know what? Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. He's mocking the greatest economic strategy in American history. Tariffs are a win, a huge win. We're bringing back jobs, factories are opening across the country. You'll see the numbers soon, the best numbers," he declared, pounding the podium with his fist. Reporters immediately started shouting questions. "Mr. President, what about the price hikes?" one asked. "What do you say to farmers losing markets?" another added. Trump waved them off. "Fake news, it's all temporary. America thanks me every day." The press conference aired live, and in homes across the country, people were glued to their screens. In a Detroit bar, a group of workers sipped beer and debated the scene. "He talks about jobs, but my brother-in-law lost soybean orders because of China," one said, shaking his head. "Yeah, but my cousin got a job at a steel mill in Pittsburgh. Maybe Trump's right?" another countered. Conversations like this flared up everywhere, in offices, at gas stations, in school parent chats. Tariffs were no longer an abstract policy. They'd become personal for every American. Meanwhile, Jimmy wasn't backing down. That evening, he taped a special segment for his show called Tariff Tuesday. The stage was set up like a parody Christmas fair, fake stalls with signs reading, "Toasters, 60 us, sneakers, $200, TVs, rich people only." Jimmy stepped out in an elf costume, holding a giant price tag. "Welcome to the new America, where everything you love costs 3 times as much." "Thanks, Donald," he said, and the room burst into laughter. Then he showed charts of rising food and product prices, adding, "Trump says it's a win. Well, if a win is when you can't buy your kid a bike, then I guess I don't know how to win." The segment ended with a satirical interview with an actor playing a Midwestern farmer. "I've grown corn for 30 years, but now China won't buy, and my barns are full. At least I've got time to embroider MAGA napkins," the farmer said, fake sobbing. The audience roared, and cameras caught a few people in the crowd wiping tears of laughter. When the show aired, X exploded again. Someone wrote, "Jimmy just buried Trump's tariffs in 10 minutes. Others shot back, "This isn't funny, it's a betrayal of workers." While America laughed and argued, something unexpected was happening in a small North Carolina town. A local entrepreneur named Ted Richardson, who owned a small metal parts factory, seized the moment. After seeing Trump's press conference, he called reporters and announced, "Thanks to tariffs, I hired 15 new workers. China's not choking us with cheap imports anymore." Cameras filmed his shop, where machines hummed and workers in hard hats smiled. Trump supporters quickly latched onto the story, and Ted's video became a counterpoint in the online war. "Proof! Tariffs work," they wrote, while opponents replied, 15 jobs versus millions paying more? Seriously?" By evening, the conflict spilled beyond TV and social media. In New York, a spontaneous protest erupted. Dozens gathered outside an electronics store, holding signs saying, "No to tariffs," and handing out flyers about price hikes. At the same time, in Texas, Trump supporters held a rally under the slogan, "Make America Rich Again," waving flags and MAGA caps. Police monitored both events, but the tension in the air was palpable even through TV screens. Jimmy, sitting at home after the broadcast, scrolled through X and saw how his show had ignited a fire that now burned on its own. "Well, at least I'm not bored," he muttered, sipping wine. In Washington, Trump wasn't sleeping either, drafting a tweet meant to destroy Kimmel once and for all. "Jimmy's a loser with basement ratings. My tariffs are saving America, and he's joking about toasters. Sad," he wrote, hitting send. The tweet racked up thousands of likes and retweets, but also hundreds of replies like, "Toasters matter, Donald." By morning, it was clear. This wasn't just a TV spat. It was a war of ideas splitting the country in two, pulling everyone, from farmers to TV stars, into its vortex. America held its breath, waiting for the next move. By the end of the week after the clash on Jimmy Kimmel's show, America had turned into an arena where words weren't the only weapons. Wallets, beliefs, and even Christmas traditions were at stake. The tariff scandal, sparked by Jimmy's wit and fueled by his Tariff Tuesday, had grown far beyond the Hollywood studio. Now it was a nationwide drama playing out in supermarkets, factories, and living rooms from coast to coast. The calendar read April 11th, 2025, but it felt like the country was already bracing for a new year where the big question was whether the average American could afford a Thanksgiving turkey. In the White House, Trump decided to double down. After his tweet calling Jimmy a loser with basement ratings, he ordered his team to organize a Great America Tour, a series of rallies to prove the tariffs were working. The first stop was Cleveland, Ohio, where thousands of supporters gathered in an abandoned lot near an old factory. Under a massive MAGA 2.0 banner, Trump took the stage surrounded by workers in orange vests. "Look at these people. This is real America. Thanks to my tariffs, factories are coming back. Jobs are sprouting like mushrooms after rain," he shouted, pointing at the crowd. Cameras showed smiling men and women, some holding signs that read, "Thank you, Donald." 3 days earlier, the factory had indeed hired 50 new workers, and Trump didn't miss the chance to highlight it. "Kimmel can joke about toasters, but I'm giving you a future," he added, and the crowd erupted in cheers. But behind the scenes, the picture wasn't so rosy. That same day in Minnesota, farmers held an emergency rally organized by the local agricultural association. In front of an old barn surrounded by fields dusted with April's first snow, a bearded man in a plaid shirt named Paul Evans spoke. "We've lost 40% of our soybean exports because of China's retaliatory tariffs. My kids ask why we can't go on vacation, and I don't know how to pay for the tractor," he said, his voice trembling with anger. A crowd of 100 farmers nodded, some holding signs that read, "Tariffs kill farms." The rally video hit the web, and the hashtag #FarmersVsTariffs gained traction, challenging Trump's triumphant footage. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel turned his show into a full-on platform for mocking Trump's policies. On the next broadcast, he unveiled a sketch called Store of the Future. A fake Walmart counter appeared on stage, where actors posing as shoppers gaped in horror at price tags. Coffee, $25. Kids building set, $150. Christmas ornaments, sell a kidney. Jimmy, dressed as a clerk, handed out discount coupons labeled, "Support Trump's tariffs, pay more." "We've got the sale of the century here. Everything that used to cost $10 is now yours for $50. Thanks, Donald, for this holiday gift," he joked as the room roared with laughter. At the end, he read real letters from viewers. "My mom can't buy medicine because prices went up," he recited, then added, "But don't worry, Trump says it's a win." The reaction was swift. On X, Trump supporters launched a Tariff boycott Kimmel campaign, urging people to shun the show and its sponsors. "Kimmel hates workers and America," one user wrote, attaching a photo from the Cleveland rally. Meanwhile, Jimmy's fans struck back, posting videos of people in supermarkets filming empty shelves with captions like, "Thanks, Tariffs." A guy from Florida uploaded a clip of himself trying to buy a $300 guitar, only for the clerk to say, "With tariffs, it's $700 now. Take it or leave it." The video hit 1 million views, and the conflict entered a new phase, a battle of personal stories. As the media war escalated, an unexpected twist unfolded in Jackson, Tennessee. A local middle school teacher named Sarah Miller organized a Tariffs in the Classroom event. She asked students to bring receipts from stores to calculate how much their favorite items, from backpacks to earbuds, had risen in price. The results showed a 25–40% increase, and the kids filmed a video holding their worn-out sneakers with the caption, "New ones are out of reach now." Sarah sent the clip to Jimmy, who aired it, saying, "Here's your real America, Donald. Kids are learning economics with their kicks." The video went viral, and thousands of parents nationwide shared similar tales, ramping up pressure on the White House. Trump, never one to back down, responded 2 days later at a Texas rally. "These liberal teachers and their fake tears are part of a conspiracy against me. My tariffs are building an America your kids will thank," he yelled to a crowd in cowboy hats. But even among his supporters, cracks started to show. In a Dallas bar, a man in a MAGA cap told his friend, "I back Donald, but my TV now costs as much as my rent. Is that okay?" A local newspaper reporter overheard, and the headline, "Even MAGA fans doubt," spread online. The climax hit when major retailers like Target and Best Buy announced temporary price adjustments ahead of the holiday shopping season. Target's press release stated, "Due to rising tariffs, electronics and toys will cost 15–30% more." It was a blow to millions of Americans planning Christmas buys. Social media erupted in panic. "How do I tell my kids Santa's not coming?" one Colorado mom wrote. Jimmy pounced on the news, airing a sarcastic song called "Jingle Bills," singing, "Ring, Bill, ring, Bill, tariffs are here. Everything you wanted, you can't buy this year." Amid the chaos, economists sounded the alarm. In a CNN interview, trade expert Lisa Garcia said, "Trump's tariffs triggered a chain reaction. China's hitting back, markets are dropping, and consumers are paying more. This isn't a win, it's an economic boomerang." Trump's critics seized her words, but his team brushed it off, saying, "She's just another elite who hates America." By week's end, the country was more divided than ever. In New York, protesters burned a Trump effigy with a price tag around its neck, while in Arizona, his supporters held a car rally with "Tariffs Show Jobs" flags. Jimmy, watching from his office, knew his show had sparked something bigger. "I just wanted to joke about toasters," he told his producer, shaking his head. But retreat was no longer an option. Trump, meanwhile, prepped his final move. In a tweet, he teased a big announcement for the next week. "I'll prove Kimmel and his gang of liars wrong. America will see the truth." What it would be, tariff cuts, a new economic plan, or something else, nobody knew. But one thing was certain. The battle for America was just heating up, and its outcome would hinge not on politicians or comedians, but on ordinary people standing at checkouts with empty wallets and big hopes. By mid-April 2025, America had become a battlefield where Trump's tariffs, Jimmy Kimmel's wit, and the daily struggles of regular people collided in an epic finale. The nation was weary of the yelling, memes, and endless debates, but everyone awaited Trump's big announcement, promised in his tweet. Tension hit its peak. News ratings soared, popcorn sales spiked, and ex-users joked it was the Super Bowl of politics. No one knew how the conflict would end, but all sensed the resolution was near. In the White House, Trump rallied his team for a final brainstorming session. The Oval Office was littered with charts, tweet printouts, and empty Diet Coke cups. "We've got to hit hard. Kimmel and these liberal whiners think they've won, but I'll show them real America," Trump said, pacing in circles. His new press secretary, a spirited woman named Kelly Wright, pitched an idea. "Sir, let's announce tax breaks for companies bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. It'll prove the tariffs work and shut the critics up." Trump stopped, pointed at her, and grinned. "Brilliant. Huge. We'll do it live. The whole country will see my victory." Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel prepped his counterstrike. His team learned Trump's announcement was set for Friday and planned a special show that night. "We won't let him have the last word," Jimmy said at the morning meeting, rubbing his hands. The writers suggested a People's Court of Tariffs segment, where real Americans would share their stories. "Let the people say what they think. This won't be about me, it'll be about them," he added, and everyone nodded. The studio started recruiting participants: farmers, workers, parents, anyone touched by the tariffs. Announcement day arrived. At 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Trump stepped onto the White House lawn, flanked by American flags and a dozen workers in hard hats. Cameras broadcast the event live, and millions of viewers tuned in. "Today, I'm signing an executive order for tax breaks for great American companies bringing jobs home. That's billions of dollars, thousands of jobs. Tariffs made China tremble, and now we're reaping the rewards," he proclaimed, holding a pen over the document. The crowd behind him cheered, and he added, "Kimmel can laugh, but I'm laughing last. America's great again." He signed it, and Trump's supporters on social media instantly celebrated. "Take that, haters. Jobs are back," one wrote, attaching a photo of the order. The news spread like wildfire. In Pittsburgh, a steel company owner announced 200 new hires thanks to the breaks. In Detroit, an auto plant pledged a new workshop. It seemed Trump had seized the upper hand, but it wasn't that simple. Economists dissected the order, noting it favored big corporations over small businesses and that consumer prices would stay high. "It's like a Band-Aid on a broken leg," Lisa Garcia said on MSNBC, while Fox News called her another whiner. That evening, Jimmy took the stage before a live audience. The set was styled as an impromptu courtroom: a witness stand, a giant screen with price tags, and even a gavel Jimmy banged for effect. "Welcome to the People's Court of Tariffs. Tonight, we'll hear from real Americans, not politicians or comedians," he began, and the crowd applauded. First up was Carol Wilson, a single mom from Georgia. "My son wanted a gaming console for his birthday. It used to cost $300, now it's $450. I said, no, and he cried all night," she said, her voice shaking. The room fell silent, and Jimmy nodded gently. "Thanks, Carol. That's the price of winning, huh?" Next was Mike Thompson, a worker from Ohio. "I lost my farm job because of tariffs, but then got hired at a factory thanks to new orders. It's not perfect, but I'm paying bills again," he said, shrugging. The crowd split. Some clapped, others stayed quiet. Last was Sarah Miller, the Tennessee teacher. She brought her students' backpack full of tattered textbooks. "Kids can't get new ones because parents are spending everything on food and clothes. This isn't a win, it's a collapse," she said, and the room buzzed. Jimmy wrapped up with, "Here's your America 2025. You decide who's right." The show was a sensation. Videos of Carol, Mike, and Sarah spread online, and people shared their own tales. Some wrote, "I got a job, thanks Trump." Others replied, "My daughter's sleeping in an old coat because a new one's $80. The conflict seemed resolved, but instead of a clear winner, a question lingered. What mattered more, new jobs or affordable prices? The next day, Trump went on Fox News, calling Jimmy's show a circus of tears. "These people don't see the big picture. I'm saving the country and they're whining about consoles," he said, brushing it off. Jimmy hit back on X. "Yeah, Donald, kids cry over consoles, adults over mortgages. Great job." Both sides dug in, but America was tiring of the fight. In supermarkets, people silently returned items to shelves. At factories, workers cheered new shifts. Life went on, but with a taste of uncertainty. A week passed. Trump launched a new tour, touting his tax breaks, while Jimmy returned to regular jokes, occasionally winking at the camera about toasters costing as much as cars. Prices stabilized slightly, but stayed higher than the year before. Factories opened, but farms kept closing. In a small Iowa town, one farmer hung a "Sold, Thanks, Tariffs" sign on his barn. Nearby, a worker slapped a "MAGA Works" sticker on his truck. They stared at each other across the street, saying nothing. On the last night of April, Jimmy ended his show with an odd monologue. "Maybe Trump's right, and we're building a great America. Or maybe I'm right, and we're just paying more for less. Or, maybe we're both wrong, and the truth's somewhere in between. Good night, America. Figure it out yourselves." The screen went dark, leaving viewers in silence, staring at their wallets, TVs, and kids playing with last year's toys. The conflict ended, but the story didn't. Who to root for? That remained unanswered, like a receipt yet to arrive in the mail. So, dear viewers, who are you cheering for? Share your opinion in the comments below.